All right, guys. So every single one of us pretty much wants the same three things, right? We want to feel our best, we want to perform at our highest level, and we want a lifestyle that we can actually sustain and not one that falls apart the second life gets really busy. Today's guest has built her entire career around delivering exactly that. And her ability to do it doesn't come from a textbook, it comes from her own story. Started with gymnastics, soccer, and then she found running. And she didn't just run for fun. She ran half marathons, she ran full marathons. And then she did something that most runners chase their entire lives and never touch. She qualified for the Boston Marathon. And that is one of the hardest standards in the sport. Years of consistency, discipline, and just refusing to give up. And that athletic foundation is the engine behind everything she does today. And because from there, she went and got the credentials to match the experience. She's a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and a certified personal trainer. So now she doesn't just know what it takes to perform at a high level from lived experience, she understands the science behind it. We're talking nutrition, movement, mindset, recovery, sleep, stress, the whole system. And what she's most passionate is about taking all of that, the athlete's discipline and the practitioner's knowledge, and translating it for the rest of us, busy adults, working parents, everyday people, just kind of drowning in conflicting healthy advice. No fad diets, no extreme protocols, just real sustainable habits that actually fit into real life and actually last. And her whole philosophy comes down to one idea, not about perfection. It's about consistency compounded over years. So if you've ever wondered how to feel your best, perform at your highest level, and finally build a lifestyle that you can actually stick with, this is a conversation for you. So let's welcome Krystal Goodman to Endless Pursuit. How are you, Krystal?
Good. How are you?
We're doing well. We're doing well. All right. So I want to start off because I know you're a big soccer person, right? So we got World Cup. We're right in the middle of it. As we speak, we're in the semifinals, and I know at least your boyfriend is pretty excited, right? So tell us what about just your experience in soccer and World Cup and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so I grew up playing soccer all through. I actually started mostly in middle school, and then it led into high school, and then 1 year of college. I absolutely love the sport. I was a right wing midfield, so a lot of running. So that kind of is why I'm passionate about running now. I think is I just love the endurance aspect of it all. But I do think that the World Cup, the older I get, and each time it comes around, I'm more and more interested in watching. And I think this year was amazing because all of these different countries got to come to America. And I'm sure you all have seen it all over social media where they're trying things that we have here, like Waffle House, ranch dressing, things like that. And they're getting super excited. And those are things, we have at our hands all the time. And we kind of think, really? Those are the things that you like the most? But I think it's really cool to see, how they view it. Just like if we were in their country, we would probably view something that they're like, that's normal for them. So that's been fun to see. But also, yeah, just kind of seeing everybody getting down to the semifinals. And obviously, I was all about the US and wanting them to win all the way. But yes, my boyfriend's from England. So we've been watching them play a lot. And now that they're into the semifinals, we're super excited to watch them on Wednesday. And it's just been fun to watch him get excited at the TV and everything. So I'm excited about, I think is it Wednesday's game, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, well, I think is it Wednesday? I know France and Spain play just because I originally picked Spain to win it all, so I got a little bit
Uh-huh.
of into that, stock into that. But yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking about the social media post. I think social media has played such a big role in the World Cup because
Uh-huh.
not just like, yeah, like you mentioned, all the posts from all these other people that are coming to America and they're trying all these crazy things and they're loving it. They're loving every bit about it. But even like the AI aspect of it, like with the Norwegian or the Norway and England game, like I saw like all these like AI created like almost like trailers of like, back in the day when you had the Vikings versus the English and the
Uh-huh.
superstars and it looked real and so and then also watching the fan bases like come
Yeah.
together and not just like hatred, like sometimes we'll see like sports where like everyone, the fan bases hate each other, but like
Uh-huh.
genuinely like everyone's jumping on, the different things that they're doing and the show aspect of it so I really feel that it's brought like everyone together to just kind of root for this big World Cup. So I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, it's been awesome.
All right, so you're talking about running, and you kind of obviously they're running a lot in soccer. And I never played soccer, but that's one thing that I always admired. I was like, I don't know if I could play soccer because I feel like I'm watching these guys and it's constant like back and forth, back and forth. They're never stopping, you know,
Yeah.
and so do you think that's kind of what kind of led you towards like really getting into running? And then I want to hear all about the Boston Marathon and how you qualified for that.
Yeah, so actually when I was in high school, when I was playing soccer, I thought it'd be, I guess you could say fun to do track and field too and cross country and practice with them so that I could be in shape for soccer. So I would run those long runs with the cross country team. I never was actually on the team, but I would just go and like practice with them and stuff to get used to the running to be better at soccer. And so then that's what led me to, go to college and play for Hiawassee College for a year and kind of learn more of the endurance part of it that way. And then just kind of being a personal trainer right outside of college, I got into the lifting part of it and strength, but also I still had a love and a passion for running. I think I've just always loved the feeling that it gave me and relieving stress. Or if I had a busy day in college with studying and everything, then I might take a break and go for a little run, even if it was like 2 or 3 miles. It would still make me just feel not as much stress. So then I could get back to what I was doing afterwards. So then going into the personal training thing, I've been a trainer since let's see, 2006. And so I've been in the gym world for quite some time, going from, if you're from the Knoxville area or anyone that's listening is, we used to have a gym called The Rush. That was around for quite a while. It was a local gym, and then Gold's Gym took it over. So I worked for them when they were Gold's Gym, and then from there, I then went on to Orange Theory, and I've been at Orange Theory for almost 10 years. And just seeing the difference in the workouts and going from just, personal training one-on-one with people to group fitness, has really been cool to see too. And just the hit side of it, the high intensity interval training. And so I would say Orange Theory really kind of brought me back into the love for the longer running. I did my first 5K in like, gosh, that would have been like 2008 or nine. And then I did my first half marathon. When was that? Gosh, that probably 2016, 2015. And then I did 21 of those before I did my first full marathon.
Wow.
And what made me want to do my first full was I hired a running coach here with Knoxville Endurance, and I wanted to get faster with my half marathon time. So I hired him because I was doing just like a long run on my own on the weekends. Then I would just take Orange Theory about 5 to 6 days a week to keep up with my running. But in class, you get about 2 to 3 miles on the treadmill plus your strength. And it did help me still through my half marathons, but I just felt like I wasn't really, understanding what else do I need to practice to get faster and to work on my heart rate, because my heart rate would still be pretty high in the races. So I hired him. And then after I did my first half marathon with him as a coach, he was like, "Have you ever thought about doing a full marathon?" And I said, "Yeah, I would love to do one at least before I'm 40 years old. I think that'd be amazing to just check off the list. And who knows if I'll like it. If I don't, I can at least say I've done one." And so I did my first one last year in November, and it was the Charlotte. But just a little story from that, and this is kind of something that can help people that might feel like they're not ready for one or they get discouraged if they're not quite the very fast in their first one. I actually was signed up to do the Marine Corps Marathon in October last year. That was going to be my first one. And when I got there, I got pretty sick. So the night before, I passed out twice. And I told myself, okay, like it's probably not the best time for you to be trying to run a full marathon tomorrow. But if you wake up and miraculously somehow you feel better, you can try it, but listen to your body. So woke up the next morning and passed out again twice. And I was like, all right, this is not probably the best time for me to be doing this. So I had to not do that one, which was sad because I was there, I was ready to do it. But then I do believe that sometimes things happen, for a reason. And so about 2 weeks later is when the Charlotte one was. So I went ahead and signed up for that one because I was already, conditioned for it. So that's when I did my first one, was in Charlotte. And then after that, my coach was like, "Wow, you did really good in this one. Your time was excellent." He's like, "I think you should try to qualify for Boston." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that, but I'll try my hardest." So then I started preparing for that one, and that was in the beginning of April. I did the one in Ohio, and that one was amazing because it was super flat. The weather was great. It was a little boring because you're on a greenway and there's not many people there that can really cheer you on. Like my mom and boyfriend came, but you couldn't really stand many places, so they couldn't really go to each spot. So I would see them like at mile can't remember, maybe it was like mile 8 the first time, and then it was mile 19 the next time, and then at the finish line. So it was cool to see them during those times, but it's definitely one of those where you're just on your own, especially after the half marathon people finished. That second half was literally me against me, just that's all it was just me on a greenway the entire way, but we did it, and afterwards, it was amazing feeling. So I think the point is like, you might have these parts of your life where things get in the way and you can't do one because you were sick, but then you have that next opportunity to do another one. And then even if you feel like you can't really like qualify or whatever that goal might be that you're trying to shoot for, um, you still could consistency, like you said at the beginning, that's what I'm basically about is like staying consistent, doing what your coach says to do, or really believing in yourself and doing even little small things to help you along the way, I think just helps in the long run. And you can achieve things you think you would probably never be able to. I would have never thought number one, I would have qualified, but number two, only my second marathon that I've ever done. So it was a pretty awesome feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I was going back to I'm glad you mentioned the marathon where you got sick and you weren't feeling that good because
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of times you can look at the World Cup, for example. We look at these players and all we see is like this end result, right? Like they're in
Mhm.
the competition now and they're at their best, but we don't look at everything they've been through to get there. And so someone could
Right.
easily look at you, for example, and be like, oh, well, I mean, that's great for her. She's on Boston Marathon. Everything must be easy for her. She was, she's a great runner, whatever. I could never do that. I would struggle the whole time. But we all go through these struggles, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
we have to fail a lot to kind of get to where we eventually want to be.
Yeah, definitely. That was a very tough thing to walk away from after I mean, I had been training for like almost a year for that first marathon, and I was heartbroken that I couldn't do it. But like I said, I was like immediately trying to find one that was probably within the next few weeks just so that I could feel better, number one, but also just to like stay with my conditioning and how I was at that point. Cause it was like if I had to wait more months ahead, I mean, obviously I would have still trained, but it would have just been a little bit harder to want to continue after not being able to do that one. But it definitely all worked out how it should.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I feel like a lot of times we have those failures, and like you said, like you're heartbroken, like it just crashes down on you. And a lot of people, it's easy to be like, I'm done. I'm giving up. I can't do
Yeah.
this. And like you said, it's all about the consistency. It's not about perfection, no matter what it is, whether it's, being off on a day of, eating or you miss a couple workouts, whatever it is, you just got to get back on it and just keep moving forward.
Yes, for sure.
yeah, and so you call yourself a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and a lot of people hear nutritionist and they think they know what that means, but I feel like even that can be overused sometimes. So what's the functional piece to you, and how does that change the way that you work with people?
Yeah, so I went to college and got my degree in nutrition, and then I went on to do the nutritional therapy practitioner program, which is I like to kind of call it like a holistic dietitian. So it's more like we're seeing the holistic approach of things. So it's not necessarily like hospital based. I mean, it could still be put in the hospital and everything, but it's more about like how can we heal you with the food that we're eating and think about what from the inside out. If I'm feeling like I need more endurance, I might need more beet juice or I need to work on, just fueling myself with the right carbohydrates. And that's been a big thing too with the whole running aspect of things is we hear all these, low carbs because we want to lose weight and all these things and there's a time and a place for lower carbohydrate diets, whether it's for someone that might have a disease or an issue where they need to go more on the keto side of things, or it's someone that might have a desk job that isn't very active and is sedentary. But like if you have someone that's an athlete or a runner, I when I go and run my long runs on the weekends, I'm burning over 1,000 calories, and I'm a shorter, petite, or smaller girl that doesn't really burn many calories unless I'm doing something crazy like that. So if you had a guy that's 6 foot something running the same amount as me, he's probably burning double those calories. So people need more of that. They need more of the carbs and really focusing in on the macros and the micronutrients that your body needs, which are your vitamins and minerals. So the nutritional therapy is more about the approach of how can we start from the inside out? Like, what has caused me to feel this way? And how could I fix that maybe with food? Or maybe you do need a supplement of some sort, which I like to start with the food part of it first. And then, like I said, if someone needs a little bit extra and more concentrated, then we may move on to some kind of a supplement, powder, things like that. Which is most of the time going to be, if someone has a busy lifestyle and they can't really get a lot of protein in by just eating like chicken and steak and things like that, they may need like a protein powder, which is just kind of adding to it, which would be a little bit more processed than the food. But if that's like your only option, if you're always, let's say you're a surgeon or something, you're always on your feet and you really don't have time to sit there and eat, and you could maybe just drink a smoothie or something. But our approach is definitely more, what is it that could be causing this? A lot of times it could be just dehydration. Someone doesn't get enough water. Most of us probably don't drink enough, especially if we are super active. And I work alongside a lot of people that are hot yoga instructors, and you never really realize how much they're even dehydrated, the instructor, because they're in that hot room all day teaching a class, and they may not be doing every single step that we're doing if we're taking the class, but they're still probably burning more calories because their body's heated and everything, but also sweating more and losing a lot of that sodium, those electrolytes that your body needs. So figuring out what is someone maybe deficient in that we could maybe add in rather than take away from their regimen each day.
And you just mentioned a lot of different types of individuals. And I think that's why
Mhm.
it's really hard just to like get on social media and find someone and say, okay, like what is going to work for me? Because there's a million different ways it could work for you. And like there's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different activities, a lot of different things people are doing. And you really have to have an individualized approach to be able to figure out what's best for you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think going off of what you're saying, a lot of people do get caught up in the social media of some people on there you see look that have this perfect body, and you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to eat exactly like they eat. Well, that may not work for that same person if you're not doing as much cardio as them, or maybe they are training for some specific high rocks or marathon or something. So they are burning more of the calories. But let's say I'm just at my desk all day and then I'm trying to eat like they are. I may not get the same results or feel the feeling that I want to feel, the more energy and things like that. Because, like you just said, everyone is individual. So it is more of the approach of what are my goals and what are the things that I have. Is it low energy, or do I feel like I'm not sleeping well enough? And I feel like that goes along with age too. And kind of, I get a lot of that with a lot of the women that come to my classes and things are like, oh, I'm getting older and I'm going through that change in life. And these things are happening, so how can I help with that? And again, that's kind of where we throw in what do we need to add in, whether it's a supplement or certain types of foods to help you feel your best.
You kind of answered this a little bit, but so let's say someone's following you, they find you on social media and they start following you, and maybe they're not a big runner, maybe they're, their goals are a little bit different. What could they still learn from you? Let me rephrase this. What should they be looking for, listening for in your post that could help them figure out what's going to be best for them?
Yeah, so I try to put a lot of I need to start doing these more often again, but I was doing Kay's quick Tuesday tip where I would put a Tuesday tip up that was very simple and easy, that again, I think nutrition and fitness can be so complicated sometimes, and a lot of us can get so frustrated because it's like all these things are being thrown at us, and it's like if someone has a lifestyle that's very sedentary and has never really tried fitness or anything, they think, well, I could never, get to that goal that I want because I'm going to have to sacrifice this, and this, and never be able to go out with friends or, enjoy my life because I'll have to just never eat out or never drink, things like that. So I think what you could take away from a lot of things I put is I try to really base it on making it a lifestyle rather than restricting things. And like I said before, I don't like to tell people to really take away things from their regimen or diet or their plate. It's more like, what can we add to it? Because none of us are ever going to really eat each of our plates having a full, list of vitamins and minerals or a full protein, carb, everything we need. We can always, there's something that can be added that could definitely benefit us. So I think just kind of seeing some of the things that I'll put, like just the other day, I made a dinner post where I tried to do it as in the moment as I could so that people could see that, even someone like me who walks the walk, talks the talk, and all that, it's still a very crazy schedule every day. I'm up at like 3:45 in the morning, 4, and have to be at work at 4:30 to start my day, and I don't finish till 5:30, almost 6 at night sometimes. And I was showing where I went to the grocery store really quick, could find a few things at Whole Foods that are a little bit on the cheaper side of things. Cause again, someone thinks Whole Foods and they think it's more expensive, which yes, some of their things definitely can be, but I was trying to show, what are some simple ingredients that I can make a little bowl when I got home, and it didn't take but 15 minutes or less to put together. So people don't think it's always got to be this recipe with 20 things on the list and going to take them 2 hours to make or prep. It can be as easy as, grabbing some things that, and some of them might be just like a frozen thing that I would warm up, or um, something that's in a bag that's already prepared that I can warm up, and it may not be obviously the most natural form because you're not getting just a chicken breast and making it. It may be, I don't know if you've ever seen that brand Kevin's. They make like chicken and beef and it's already got some type of marinade on it. You can get them at Costco, Whole Foods. I think even Kroger has it now, but it's a very simple thing that you can just heat up and the ingredients are actually really good and doesn't have a lot of the crazy stuff in it. Those have been helpful for people, so just letting people know that it can be more simple than you really think.
Yeah, totally agree. Simplifying all this is so much better. I just think as a society, like in general, we tend to overcomplicate everything,
Yeah.
and especially nutrition. But you're right. You can make it so simple and really enjoy it and really be able to figure out what works best for you.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, when it comes to fueling for performance, I know that's something that you were talking about and something that you live a lot. But I guess what does that mean practically for people? Because I know you mentioned too something like the carbs, and people have this misconception, or people often think training or eating for performance means eating more, and then they get scared of that. So I guess what does that look like practically for people who want to perform at a high level, and want the nutrition to match that?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's been a long road because when I was in high school into college, low carb was literally that was the trend. I'll never forget in high school I had a friend that we would go to lunch and she would literally bring a bag of like pepperonis and that would be her lunch. She would eat the entire thing. So if you really think about that too, you're getting, loads of saturated fat too and it's literally just fat and a little bit of protein. And we're thinking, "Oh, it's so good for us because we're going to lose all this weight," but really you're losing water weight because carbs bring water into the cell. That's why we get Gatorade because it's literally sugar, salt, and water. So it's helping us keep the water in our body and stay more hydrated. So definitely with the half marathons that I did in the beginning, I will just go ahead and be honest, I never fueled as much as I should have.
Mm.
And I think that's another thing that held me back from getting faster and feeling my strongest and being able to do more of those races. And, when you do a marathon, that was my biggest thing that scared me the most is I thought, how in the world am I going to fuel myself enough to get through all of these miles and not get cramps and not hit the wall like they say you can and how's my stomach going to feel okay and not have discomfort or have to use the bathroom and things like that. So I had to kind of train myself with that too. In the training sessions, I would, especially longer runs and bring some of those gels along and see how they felt on my stomach. And I've found some that are more of the natural and not like all the crazy flavors because I've found for me, the more simpler, the better on my body. But I will definitely say for anyone that's ever not run a marathon or that feels like they're not able to get through them because they're tired or their muscles cramp and things, nutrition is the biggest thing for it. I would definitely say make sure you're carb loading the night before, even a couple of days before. And then also the day of the race, I make sure I have every 30 minutes I take a gel, no matter if I want it or not. I'll take the gel. And then I'm also hydrating like crazy. Like I'll take I mean, 1,000 milligrams of sodium in one of my water bottles, and then I'll have another water bottle during the race. And then I've got little salt tablets that I'll take during the race. It makes a huge difference because my first marathon, I honestly felt fine afterwards. My hamstrings were a little sore like the next day, but I was shocked at how actually good I felt just because I do think that fueling your body with those sugars and those carbs really helps because my muscle was not like trying to break itself down to provide the fuel it needed and I stayed very hydrated and even in my training runs you'll always see me running with a handheld water bottle because I just never want to feel that feeling of the dehydration. It's just not good. 'Cause it can cause a lot of bad things to happen, but I would definitely say if you're going to want to train for anything crazy like that is to focus on, how many carbs am I taking in for my body, my weight. And yeah, don't worry about a lot of people think too, oh, we're gonna run all these miles and all these calories. I'm gonna lose weight this way. But I wouldn't get discouraged if you feel like you're not losing the weight, if you're staying on the same or maybe even gaining a little bit, because that's just part of it, because you really got to feel your body or you could end up honestly in the hospital or just like not feeling your best. So I would definitely focus on making sure you're fueling yourself so you have that energy and you're not breaking down muscle or anything like that.
One of the things that I hear from you is that you had a plan going into this, whether you had a
Mhm.
plan marathons, you trained for it, everything was planned to the T. And we really encourage that with our clients, whether it's going out to eat or whether it's the going on vacation or a work trip. Tell us how important it is to have a plan just in general to make sure you're successful.
Yes, definitely. I think, like I said, I can compare it again to like when I would do the races and didn't have a coach and didn't really plan. I mean, I hate even saying this because I want people to know you have to drink water while you're running, but I'll never forget some of those first half marathons I did. I wouldn't even stop at water stations. I would literally just keep going because I was afraid I was going to be slower if I stopped to get that water. But now I'm like, always have the water bottle and I'll stop at the station and dump the water on myself just to get cooled. Because I think it is just so important. But yes, I think planning anything out is super because even with just if someone comes to me and they want to lose weight and they're not like doing the running or anything like that, it's like we need to have a goal of like, what is your goal? How much are you wanting to lose? How much you want to gain? Is it just changing your body composition? And is there a deadline? Maybe someone's getting married, or maybe you have a trip you want to go on. So if you have a specific goal that you're trying to shoot for and give yourself maybe some little goals along the way to hit, you're more than likely going to stay on track and end up hitting that goal rather than if you just say, well, my goal is I'm just going to try to do 5 workouts a week or something like that. It's like those could easily just be like, well, I'm just too tired today. So next week I'll do the 5 instead of this week. So I think definitely coming up with a plan in anything really, even, if I'm scheduling clients or teaching classes, I have a whole planner that's got what I've got during the day. And that's how my runs are. My coach has an app for me that tells me what I do each day for the week, and I write them down on my planner. And I tell myself, okay, at this time, this is when I'm going to take my break from what I'm doing. Going to do the run, then I'll come back to what I'm doing later, just so I know I get it done. So I think, yeah, to your point, a plan is huge.
So if someone's starting out, they're like, you know what? I've never been a big runner, but I'm motivated now, or maybe they were motivated before, they just didn't know how to get started. What would you tell someone that's just starting out, starting to run, or interested in wanting to run, whether they want to go for a Boston Marathon or a marathon or not? They just want to start running more.
Yeah, I think definitely start small even. Like I said, my first race ever was that 5K I did in like 2009. It was with one of my clients and I'll never forget just thinking to myself when she asked me to do it with her, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this because I hadn't done any really big running or anything since soccer in high school and college. So I was just like, well, I guess I'll do it. And we had a blast. And I think the running community in general has gotten so big that a lot of these races are just like fun things to go and do with friends, and dress up. Like I see a lot of the girls having the same outfits and they're posting it on social media. And, like I did the Fireball 5K for 4th of July a couple weekends ago, and it was fun. I haven't done really a 5K in a long time. And honestly, I'll tell you this, I think 5Ks are way harder for me than a marathon just because it's a short enough distance, but it's long enough that you try to really push yourself because it's shorter, but it's long enough to where you're like dying by the end of it, especially when it's hot and humid. But I think it's just fun and just I think thinking of it more as again something that you can add into your lifestyle and make it fun, make it enjoyable, and don't put the pressure on yourself of well I have to. Just because so and so qualified for Boston, I have to do it. It's not really everybody's journey is different. So I think if you just start, even if it's just like running 5 minutes and then walking the rest of the time that you might want to try, it's still going to be something. And I think, trying not to go all in because I think a lot of times what happens is we either A, get burnout or B, we might get injured. And, C, just might not feel well. And then you're like, I don't really like this running thing. And then you can't really find your passion in it. So I think really just finding what works for you and your lifestyle, and what would make you drive to want to continue to do it, whether it is just 5Ks, 10Ks, or maybe you do want to do a half one day, or maybe you do want to do a full. I've got people I know that do ultras. I don't know that I'll ever do one of those, but maybe one day. I don't know. That just seems like a lot, but it just kind of depends on the person and kind of what they're looking for. But I would just say start small and kind of build from there.
Yeah, I love that point about the stress as well, like the pressure that we put on ourselves. Like, I'll be
Hmm.
honest, I don't run that much. A lot of it's because I have that huge like standard and pressure on myself that I'm like, oh, I'm not prepared for it. So if I go out and run a 5K and there's a certain time, if I don't get to that time, I disappoint myself. So sometimes I'm like,
Hmm.
won't run it because I'm not going to be able to get there this time. And that's that's not going to help you get to your goals or help you to have fun. Like you said, it's just fun sometimes to go out there and do something different.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there is a lot of pressure out there. And a lot of times, again, I think social media can be positive in some senses, but it can also be a little bit negative in that part of it too. And I think that even something like a Strava, it's fun. I love it. But I think sometimes people get too consumed in looking at other people's pace and, oh my gosh, they can do that, but I can't. And that means I'm slow and this and that. But it's like, you don't really know what that person's background is. Maybe they've always run competitively their entire life. And just because you're the same age or both a woman or whatever that looks like, it doesn't mean that you're going to be just like them. So I think really just you against you and kind of what your goal is. And maybe you're shooting for a certain time for a marathon, but that doesn't mean you have to shoot for that person's time and try to beat them or try to be faster than them. I think it's more about what can you do for you to make you feel good and hit your goal that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, both my girls are dancers, and the dance season is coming up again, and so their coach is making them run, and they're having to run miles on their own and to build endurance. And so they'll come back and they'll say, "Hey, Dad, what's a good time?" And I'm like, "Well, it depends. Like, really, it doesn't matter what a good time is. What's a good time is if you're trying to improve every time you go out there. So it doesn't matter if
Mhm.
you're running a 10-minute mile, 7-minute mile. Every time you go out there, just try to improve that every little bit, and you'll be on the right track."
Mhm. Yeah, and I think just getting out there in general is what it's all about. Like my long run this past Saturday, I'll be honest, it wasn't my best one I've ever done, but I mean, it was humid, it was pouring down rain, everything was against me, but I still got out there and did it. And really, a lot of times, just the time on your feet is what matters most in building your endurance for the longer races, because you'd be surprised how, like, for me at least, I remember thinking, because when I trained for the one in October, that was summer in the summer training, and I thought, "How in the world am I gonna get through all 26 miles without having to, like, stop for a long period to take my water and all of that? Like, this is crazy." But you don't think about, "Oh, well, in October, it's gonna be cooler outside, so my body won't need as much water, but also I'm gonna have more rest before because you have, like, a taper that you get to take, so you get more time off and everything before the actual race." Whereas when I'm training, I'm running 6 times a week, and it's like my body's already tired, but you do that on purpose to train your body to be able to push forward. So, taking all that into, play, it's like you think, "Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna be able to do this," but then when you actually get to race day, it's like, "Wow, I can really, push myself more than I thought I could."
Yeah, and we talked a lot about endurance. I know you mentioned that you do lift weights as well, and that's like been a core part of your journey too. And I think a lot of people hear about lifting weights for muscle and longevity and then cardio for endurance. So how do you balance both of those things, the lifting and everything else that you do, and how do you approach that with clients?
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the harder things I would say, especially training for a marathon, because, like I said, I'm running 6 days a week. And then with my schedule, it's very hard to get a lot of it in. So I would say I'm not as much doing the weights as I would when I'm not training, but definitely trying to at least like jump in maybe a little bit of an Orange Theory class here and there between classes that I'm teaching. I've got weights here at home, even. Then I've got also a Peloton that I can run on if it's too crazy, like gross outside and still need to get that treadmill workout in. But definitely just trying to get a little bit of the strength training in. And I would say, I guess for me too, it's like I'm demoing all day long in classes. So I am picking up weights. So essentially, I am lifting almost every day, just doing that. But I would say again, just kind of planning it into your plan. When can I do these? And again, the coach kind of helps with, hey, this day you're going to be running an easy 50 minutes. So that's like a zone two, slower heart rate kind of run. So maybe I might be able to add a little bit of some strength training on that day too. Whereas like a Saturday, like this Saturday, I have 17 miles, probably more than likely not going to lift any kind of weights. I'm just doing that run and then trying to recover the rest of the day. So just kind of thinking, how can I incorporate some of those strength training sessions in with some of those shorter runs that I have from those days. So yeah, with a client, I would say we would definitely again plan it out more during the week of what days could they do more of their strength, whereas other days they can do the running, but also have some kind of rest in there too.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to touch too on women's health because I know that's a big part of what you focus on too. And we work with a lot of men, but I know there's a lot of women out there too, and even men, like they have their wives that they want to support. And so, what do you feel like are some of the overlooked things that you see women getting wrong when it comes to nutrition and how it affects their hormones and energy and everything else?
Yeah, I would say that is a big one. A lot of times the biggest question I always get, and I'm sure you guys have heard this too, is they'll say, "What do you think about intermittent fasting?" And I would say for women, it's definitely very hard on us because our body is going through stress constantly because of our hormones and our menstrual cycle. Our menstrual cycle goes through the 4 cycles every month. So you're not necessarily never on. I mean, there's the one week that we actually have, your actual menstrual cycle, whereas the other weeks are like luteal phase and follicular and ovulatory, all that. So your body's constantly working and going through all of this. So if we put more stress on it by starving it, basically in the intermittent fasting, it can definitely mess with the hormones more and cause you more havoc on your body and make you feel worse. So just be aware of that if anybody's ever like interested in that. For guys, it doesn't really affect them as much as a woman just because they don't go through that hormonal difference in each month. But yes, I would say, especially again with my running journey, I've noticed that like if it's about to be that time of the month, and this past weekend was an example. So not only was it humid and raining, but that happened too. So it was like, how do you push forward? And it's one of those things again, maybe I do go a slower pace because I'm not feeling my best. I mean, if you're a woman, you understand what I'm saying by the way that you feel and you could be cramping more or, just not feeling good, feeling tired. So I would say really listen to your body big time because there's been definite times where on my last marathon training cycle that I didn't have it in me that day to do the run. So I told myself, you know what, your body's telling you like you just need to rest today. So I would just take that day and say, tomorrow we'll just start, fresh and do whatever workout I have for that day. And this is just a day that I just didn't get to do, but my body needed recovery instead of doing that hard work. So I think really, listening to your body and seeing how it feels. And another thing I've used is my Aura ring kind of helps me track that too, so that I know what phase my body is in. So I can kind of connect it with, oh, well, this is why I'm feeling more tired, or this is why I have more energy now. And you can also eat different minerals and vitamins and things leading up to your menstrual cycle. Magnesium is huge for women. Anybody really, magnesium's great for recovery, but I'd say women, we especially kind of need that. I do that every day. That's one that I'll never miss, just because I feel like it helps me with a lot of things. But yeah, I think as a woman, we just have to really listen to how our body's feeling and kind of push through the workout, but also at the same time, if it's just like you just can't handle it, you need to scale it back some, whether it is like a slower pace or maybe you do just need that rest that day. And I think in the long run, that's going to help you more than if you really push too hard and then end up like injuring yourself or getting sick or not feeling your best.
Yeah, another thing we talk about a lot on the show is stress and how it affects the CNS. And from a nutritional standpoint, how much does that chronic stress like actually impact what's happening in the body? I think a lot of people overlook that or they underestimate how powerful stress can affect you.
Oh, for sure. I think it's honestly one of the biggest things. And I think it also goes along with if you think about someone, okay, if we sit down and we do a nutrition consultation, and if that person's not mentally ready to make a change, they're probably not going to. So I think it all starts with your mind. It's like, are you ready? Are you in that mindset of, okay, I'm ready to make a change? Do I want to, even if it's a small change of drinking more water or adding something to my plate, like a vegetable or something, but if I'm not in that mindset, more than likely, I'm probably not going to do it. So I think definitely the mind is huge. And yes, stress can do a lot of damage that we just don't realize until over time, then we finally see it. I mean, I even see it with like clients, friends, or anybody that might be going through something in their life. They'll be like, gosh, my neck and everything is so tense today. I don't know why. And I'm like, because a lot of times we do this and we don't realize when we're just like, stressed. Or I even notice it when I'm running in the winter and it's cold and I'm like this because I'm trying to stay warm. The next day, my upper body might feel sore just because I'm, bent over trying to stay warm. But same kind of thing. If we're, stressed about work or something in life or whatever, I do feel like it can affect lots of things, your sleep and your attitude and just like your muscle, the way it feels and even the runs. And that's why again, I think if I had a client that's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just so stressed with work and all of this. I don't know about the run today." Maybe I might say, "Hey, just take a recovery day because if you go try to run and your body's already under this whole stress, you're probably more than likely going to be injured or hurt yourself." So I think definitely staying in tune with that and trying to figure out a way to kind of calm yourself down maybe at the end of the day or maybe in that moment when you feel like you're like high strung stress kind of feeling.
Yeah, such a silent killer. And there is that balance of knowing when to push yourself, also knowing when to listen to your body. But like you said, it's like always showing up and doing something, whether that's more recovery based or going at a slower pace and giving yourself that grace, whether you're at a certain point in your cycle, or just how your body's feeling, how recovery's feeling, or what your stress is like. I think it's so important.
Yes, for sure.
Well, it's kind of going back to being intentional in the gym, right? Like you said, there's gonna be some days you show up and you feel amazing. And those are the days that you crush it. You go in there and hit as hard as you can. And there's some days where you're not feeling it, but you still show
Mhm.
up and you do the best you can, but you're intentional with what you're doing. You're still you're going through the motions, but you're trying to do the best you can, just knowing that it's not going to be your best workout ever. And that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
And so what about women in like their 40s and 50s? I feel like a lot of people when they get to that stage, they notice things feel a little bit different, whether that's their metabolism or recovery or energy. What do you tell someone who feels like their body is changing and not working the same way that they're used to?
Yeah, so I would first ask, have they gone to their doctor even and gotten any kind of labs done to see, are my hormones changing some? Am I going through perimenopause or in menopause? Just kind of seeing because it's a huge change. That our bodies can go through. And again, it can be small little things that we just think are just normal things with getting old. Maybe it is just something that we should really focus on and get the supplementation that we need. Or some people do the hormone replacement therapy, whatever that looks like for them and what's going to help them the best. But I'll definitely say get some of that checked if you're really feeling like there's a huge concern with like a lot of things that are changing big time. But also kind of tracking again, like I said, my aura ring's like a huge component of that for me where I feel like, oh, okay, well, this time it's been worse than some of the other months I've had. So maybe I should get something checked. And I myself went and got my hormones checked about probably 2 months ago, I would say, because I am getting closer to those ages where that kind of thing happens. And all of them were fine, and she definitely did like a deep panel of it all, but even she was telling me that sometimes it can show that they're fine in the range, but maybe still be aware that you may be coming to that point where you do have to focus on that. But I would definitely say that I think the older we get, obviously we aren't going to be able to recover as quick as we did when we were younger, especially if we're trying to do some very intense workouts like a high rocks or a CrossFit or, endurance athletes and things. So I think the focus on the recovery is huge, and I've learned that a lot in the last 10 years, I would say, that I have to add that in. I can't just go, go, go all the time like I used to and expect, to feel my best and show up for even my clients and my work, like I did if I don't get that recovery. So like a Sunday for me especially is, trying to sleep in a little bit more and also doing maybe some contrast therapy like a cold plunge and a sauna. Or even I've got some of those compression legs that you can put on here at home or like a massage gun if, there's certain parts that need it. And then just really trying to focus on my sleep more, which is very hard because you have to be somewhere super early, but you kind of have to figure out what's that balance and how can I make sure that I'm laying in my bed and not just scrolling my phone or watching the TV and trying to figure out what's a good, sleep routine to kind of get your body ready for it. Because I think a lot of times too, we say, oh, we're getting in bed at 8 or 9, but do we really fall asleep right away? Probably not. Most of us might be going to bed at 10:30, 11, and still getting up super early. So I think that's a huge one is the sleep. This is kind of funny and random, but my boyfriend, he plays tennis. So I've gotten big into tennis, like watching it with him.
Yeah.
But you might have heard this, but Roger Federer slept for 12 hours a night for 20 years. Can you
Wow.
imagine sleeping 12 hours a night?
That's impressive.
That is very, but of course,
Very.
like, number one in the world. I mean, he's phenomenal,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I thought that was super crazy, like, I wish I c if I get 12 hours in 2 nights, then I'm, like, excited, so that's, like, really cool, but
Yeah, well, and that's a great point. You're talking about when we look on social media and we see someone like Roger Federer, like 12 hours. Like I can't get 12 hours, and so you're like, whatever. I'm gonna 4 or 5 is fine. It's almost like we go opposite. We're like, I can't get to that, so I'm not even gonna try.
Mhm.
And we talked about simplifying wellness. So like, if someone's talking to you about this, and they're either like restarting their journey or they're just starting brand new health journey, and they're just overwhelmed by everything, like where would you tell them to start?
I would definitely say, you could find a professional, like, whether it's a personal trainer, a nutritionist, a wellness anybody that's gonna help get you on the track. I think if you're feeling especially overwhelmed with like anything on social media or just like looking things up and it's like, oh, this says this and this says that, I think a lot of times it's best to kind of find a professional that can kind of put you in the right direction. And obviously you can still find some people that may not be the best fit, but kind of see, is it the best fit for me? Or maybe even talk to your doctor or just say, hey, do you know of anyone that you would refer me to that I could do on the nutrition side of things or fitness? I have a lot of clients that are doctors that have helped me get clients through their patients. Even they would be like, hey, my trainer, you can, set up an appointment with her if you'd like to see if you all are a good fit and you can start the workouts. I think it's definitely important, and not just for me, like you could find a trainer anywhere else really too, but I think it's important for people that have never really worked out to try to find a trainer of some sort just so they can see your form and make sure you're doing it correctly so you don't hurt yourself. Because I think a lot of times that happens too. And then again, it's one of those things where if you hurt yourself, then you're gonna be like, well, I'm just gonna give up because clearly I don't know how to do it. So I think knowing that you're doing it the right way and being pushed in that right direction right at the beginning is probably very helpful. But I would say definitely start off small. Even like what we said earlier, like a small thing like just drinking more water can really help you just get the start of it all. And then take it from there, build off of it. That's what I try to do with a lot of my clients too, is just give them small things to work on. It shouldn't be just, oh, I feel like I have to just change everything because number one, it can be super expensive if you've got all these things in your pantry already. And then someone's telling you, well, you need to buy everything from Whole Foods or everything from Sprouts. Or if someone's saying, well, you got to work out 5 days a week and you've never worked out before. I mean, or like the 75 hard, for instance. I did it, but I wouldn't suggest everyone does it because it's called 75 hard for a reason. Like, it's very hard and it's things that like you just can't sustain the rest of your life. It's,
Right.
you know, 2 workouts a day, one has to be outside. It could be snowing outside. So does that mean you have to go out in the freezing cold? It's things like that where I think people get that thought of, oh, well, I'm just going to go all in, and then it's not fun. They feel like they've failed and then they just don't even want to try again. So I think definitely trying something smaller first and then after that maybe challenge yourself to something a little bit bigger later on.
Yeah, and a lot of our audience are high performing professionals and their standards are super high. And
Mhm.
I think that all or nothing mentality is there, right? And
Yeah.
so they look at that like if I'm not going to be able to do this perfectly, then I'm out. And so you've talked about how important consistency is. We talked about it all the time on our podcast. So what does that look like in practice when you're working with clients who are struggling with that? If I can't do it perfectly, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those we just have to kind of check in again and see like how are you feeling in the process of it all. If it's not fun anymore, what's the point? And I think to use running as an example, I think that can definitely be one of those because there is so much out there of, well, this person did it in this time and this is frustrating because I can't do it in that time. And how come she can and I can't? Again, I think it's very personalized. Each person's different. And maybe just find what is going to work for you and what you can shoot for. I mean, if you know anything about the running world and stuff, it's like, let's say I did a marathon, a half marathon. I'm going to use that as an example. A half marathon in an hour and 40 minutes, just to do it in an hour and 39 minutes is huge. I mean, that 1 minute is a huge difference, and I don't think people really realize until they actually do it that just 1 minute is a huge, not 10, like, if someone knocks 10 minutes off, I mean, that's amazing after doing the race before it, and no matter if it's a month, in between or if it's 5 months in between, I mean, that's still a huge difference if you look at it per mile, what your time is. So I think that can be frustrating too for people. Or we can use my boyfriend as an example. He plays tennis a lot, so he's used to the he either wins or loses, right? Because it's just him and one other person. Whereas with running, you're not really losing unless you're like obviously in the Olympics and you're really trying to get first place in like a huge major. But like if I'm running a race, I'm not going to win the entire thing probably because I'm not at that level, but the way I can win is trying to push myself in my time I had before. Maybe I did it in 140 last time, so now I want to shoot for that 139 this time. But that doesn't mean I won the entire, and he couldn't get that through his head at first. He did his first 5K with me and he was like, but I want to see what their times were last year. I want to see if I can beat them. I'm like, those same people might not be running this race this year though. So you can't really base it off of that. And I was just like, you're gonna win no matter what because you've never done one. This will be your PR because you've never done one. And so it's just funny to hear from his side of things that he's so used to one against one that you either win or lose. So it's just kind of funny with each sport how it can be different too.
Yeah, I get that being competitive, but you're right. You have to have a different mindset. He has to have a different mindset playing the game of tennis as you do running. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, but I get that, man. Getting out there like I want to win. Like, where do I have to get to get to the finish line? So I get that
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of the you versus you, especially when you were doing your marathon and like you said, like your family and boyfriend, like you only got to see him a couple times and you really had to like lock in and mentally get yourself through. Is like what were you telling yourself in that moment when it was you versus you? Like what are you telling yourself to get through those moments? Because a lot of times we talk about it's like training, achieving anything is more mental than it is physical. So I'm assuming that was kind of your experience with that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I kind of play the game of like the miles too, where it's like, all right, so, once you get through the first half, because I've done many half marathons, it's like, all right, I've got to do this again. And it's like, this is where I'm usually going to get a water bottle passed to me because that's when I normally tell friends or family to give me a new one so that I have a full one. So I'm like, all right, I'll get to see them. That, here's my second half. Then you get to mile 16 and you're like, all right, now I still have 10 miles, 10.2 basically. And then you're like, okay, well, then once you get to the last like 3.1, it's that 5K. And it's like, all right, you just have a 5K left. And in my mind, I'm mentally doing the math of like how much time that means I've still got to be out here. And it's like, if I can get over this 20 something minutes that I've left, then I can relax the rest of the day, kick my feet up, just finish the dang thing. And I just remember I kept looking at my watch and telling myself, if I can just keep my pace under 8 minutes the rest of the time, I think I can do it. Cause at the beginning, the night before, I was anxious because I was like, I don't know if I can do this time. I don't know if I can get the time. And my family was all like, don't stress yourself out. Just have fun with it. If you don't get it, you'll have another opportunity another time. But then I remember looking and at the halfway point and thinking, "Oh my gosh, I think I can do this." So I just kept telling myself, "All right, keep it under the 8 minutes and just breathe and just try not to think about anything and just I think also the timing of the fueling helps because it's something for me to think about. So it's like, okay, 30 minutes went by, I got to take another gel. Another 30 minutes went by, I got to do my electrolytes. And I think that kind of helps too. And I had music too. So I've done races without music, even just being in your own thoughts, but those have been halves. I've never done a full with no music, but um and I've listened to podcasts too before in some of them, but this one, like just having, I think, a playlist. And a lot of times I'll ask friends and family, like, hey, give me some songs that I should listen to. So then when you hear those, you think of that person. But I will say one big thing, if you all ever decide to do some races, they have an app called Rally. It's like Rally, and it's for half marathons, fulls. I don't know if they do it for 5Ks. They might, but it's only certain races. And so you get on the app, and let's say I'm going to do the Boston, and I make my own link for Boston, and I could send it to you all. And then there'll be miles 1 through 26, and you guys can click one of the miles and leave me a voice memo.
Oh.
Well, that's very
So
cool.
yeah, so you have somebody at each mile, like, encouraging you or telling you something funny. So that helped me a lot too, because I did it for both marathons. So it's something to look forward to. Sometimes it had me in tears, like, crying because they were so, like, kind and just, like, encouraging, but then some were just making me laugh because they were just saying some really funny things. But I think that helps too, just knowing you've got people pushing you and encouraging you.
Yeah, that support's always huge.
Yeah.
Well, Crystal, we really appreciate your time. This has been so interesting. And again, congratulations. I mean, that is such
Thank
an
you.
accomplishment for the Boston Marathon. But before we let you go, is there anything that maybe we didn't get today that you feel like is important or something that you wanted to share with us or share with our audience that people need to hear?
I think the biggest thing, and we've all kind of touched it the whole time too, is just believe in yourself. Like, there's been times I've had like troubles with like friends that come and go and things like that. And it may discourage you when you're trying to do these really exciting things in your life. But just know that if you just believe in yourself, you'll be able to achieve those things that you want to achieve, no matter what someone else might say or if someone's trying to compete with you and things like that. Because again, I think a lot of that gets thrown in, and that can be a little frustrating and discouraging. But I think if you just always believe in yourself, that's what matters most. And I think you can achieve more than you really think you ever could. And I'm a prime example of it because, like I said, I would have never thought I could qualify for Boston. And here I am on the second marathon, and I'm super excited about it. So, but thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, you're awesome. It's been so
Oh,
cool
thank you.
hearing your story. And so lastly, where can people find you if they want to connect, they follow your journey, your races, or they want to work with you, where can they go?
So I have a website, Clean Nourish, and clean is with a K because my name is with a K. And then my Instagram is the Clean Nutritionist, and clean is with a K. I put a lot of the tips and everything on there, and I try to do a lot of stories every day and just kind of update on a lot of the running and just nutrition and fitness and all of that too, and make it fun. So you can definitely find me on there.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll link that stuff for everyone. And yeah, Crystal, we appreciate you coming on. It's been so awesome chatting with you and hearing your
Thank
experience
you.
and appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll catch you guys on the next one.